Today's video is a little bit different, and I hope a little bit more special than usual. I am driving an Aston Martin DB9, but I am lucky enough to say that just driving an Aston Martin DB9 isn't enough to mark this video out as special on its own. Instead, what's special about this car is the man and the story behind it, because this DB9 is owned by somebody who was at a point in life where most people would be buying their most sensible of all cars, and yet Ben decided instead to pursue his dream because he believed that becoming a father shouldn't be a barrier to doing exactly that. Today I'm going to be driving his car, talking a little bit about it, and then speaking to him and giving you the story of one man and this, the Aston Martin DB9. Fortunate enough to have driven most of the Aston Martins from this period, yet there is still something quite special about the DB9. Maybe that's because this is a car deemed so cool that before Top Gear's studio burned to a crisp, they kept the picture of a DB9 in its own fridge. A car that was not just faster than a train to the south of France, it heralded a new age for Aston Martin by beginning production at their new facility over at Gaydon. Though not exactly cheap at just over £100,000, it was at least a bit more affordable than the Vanquish, which was built over at the old facility in Newport Pagnell. And putting all that aside, what you're left with is still a highly desirable and rather gorgeous looking 2+2 proper Grand Tourer with a glorious naturally aspirated 6-litre V12 up front, drive to the rear, and a glorious leather-lined and rather special cabin. Though I'm sure many people would be more interested in the slightly later and sportier Vantage, which I think has aged a touch better, there's still something rather elegant and special about the DB9, if only that engine. Sure, if you want a V12 Vantage you can have one, but you'd also be paying about double the money to get effectively the same engine in a DB9. The biggest problem I think many people would have is trying to work out exactly which DB9 it is that they would want. Confusingly, the DB9 model lineup really is two different cars. You have the first, which ran really from inception in 2003 up until about 2012, and then the second generation that followed after. That really was a reworking of the short-lived Virage, incorporated many of its styling and also mechanical upgrades. However, in between you do have this, which I think could be the sweet spot. This is a later car. Examples from 2009 to 2012 were, I suppose, the last of the first generation, which means they've got a few noteworthy upgrades. Firstly, the cabin is the much later and more modern system as found in, say, the 4.7-litre Vantage. So out went that slightly iffy looking interior and, more importantly to some, the Ford-derived key. Here you have the proper Aston glass item. You've also got the same seats as in a V8 Vantage, which I've never been a big fan of, but overall this is a seriously nice place to spend your time. Of perhaps more interest to petrol heads is the fact that both engine and gearbox were also revised, so 470 odd horsepower rather than the 450 of before, as if that wasn't already enough. Torque still prodigious. This really is the correct power plant for this kind of car. Though you could have a DB9 with a manual, it was always a fairly rare thing, and I've always believed that an autobox actually suits it a little bit better. Handily here, that's also an updated item. This is what they call Touchtronic 2. Still a 6-speed torque converter, but just a little bit better. It is in manual mode in particular where you really notice a difference. It's just that much more responsive and quicker to shift, making this car even better as a driver's tool, bridging the gap really between the DB9 and the Vantage. If you have to drive around town on a regular basis or simply don't want the hassle of a manual, there's really nothing wrong with this at all. And it is a car that makes you feel like a hero. This sport pack equipped car has revisions to the suspension, even the chassis, which now features an aluminium under tray, which adds to the rigidity of the car. You also get sport pack specific alloys and a few other tweaks here and there that make this a really enjoyable version of the DB9 for the keen driver. The steering is beautiful and light with plenty of texture and feel coming through the wheel, a real surprise to anybody who expects this to be simply a car for old men to loaf about in. I've no complaints about the pace of it. The engine is mighty, the brakes superb, and at all times this is a properly special car. One day an Aston Martin will be mine. Oh yes, she will be mine. However, YouTubers aside, this is exactly the sort of car you'd expect to be bought by the odd bachelor or the older businessman who's done well and wants something to represent the success he's had in life. It's certainly not the kind of car you'd expect to be bought by a new dad, because aren't they supposed to get a people carrier or something? Well, apparently not. This car belongs to Ben, who's father to not just one, but 4 children, 3 when he got this. That is why there are loads of child seats in here. And he is a firm believer that being a dad isn't a reason to give up on your dreams. It is instead his inspiration to pursue them. And he believes that you really, really can use, drive, and enjoy one of these cars while still being a dad. A dad that wants his children to be a part of his adventures, something I really admire. He's even started a YouTube channel on exactly that topic. Now, many times in the past, I've had comments with people asking me to get the owners of the cars that I feature on camera. However, the truth is, most of them don't want to be on camera. But happily, Ben is an exception to that rule. So, rather than me tell you about why it was that he bought this car, allow him to do it instead.
Yeah, hi, so my name's Ben, and this is my 2009 Aston Martin DB9, or I like to call it the Dad B9. When I was learning to drive, that's when the DB9 was actually was released. You know, so you'd see one of those drive past, and oh, such an exciting sight. So, but the cars that I had, my first sports car, if you like, was a Mark II MR2, a Rev 4 T-bar, full leather UK car. It was lovely. I had a 3000 GT or GTO twin turbo, you know, depending on where you are. But that was, you know, fantastic, super fast car. Then I had a Honda S2000, a white Honda S2000 with red leather seats. And then after that I had a Lotus Elise S2, a supercharged one. And then that's when the children come along. So I sold the Lotus because can't switch off the airbag in the passenger side of a Lotus. So I had no real use for it then. So I kind of considered going a sensible route once we had the children, and that was kind of what, like, my wife, we needed to replace my wife's car, so we bought her an X5, a previous generation one, 2013 model, and I've got a 30D because you know, it's a bit quicker, you know, 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. I thought, you know, maybe that will kind of satisfy my my lust for an exciting car and also do all the practical thing. But it doesn't last long, you know. After a couple of months, you know, it starts creeping back into your head like, oh, I need to have something. I need to have one of these cars that I dreamt of as a child. Kind of like yourself, really, with some of the Top Gear episodes, the classic Top Gear episodes. Jeremy Clarkson obviously absolutely loved these cars as well. So yeah, it's always been a bucket list car for me. It really has. I had 3 children, and the plan was always to have 4. And you might be able to get 3 children in a 2+2, even if it's super tight in the back. So that's really what made me pull the trigger on it when I did. Because if I left any longer, I'd have 4 children, then I'd have to wait until they were all grown up and then sort of have it as the classic sort of midlife crisis car later on. So, so yeah, it was basically my last chance was whilst we had 3, we knew we were going to have 4. I had to go for it and see if I could squeeze 2 in the back and then 1 in the passenger side. So research for these cars, probably like a lot of people, I got really obsessed with them and just was reading every single forum post and watching every single video on YouTube, including lots from yourself. And also as well, there's this fantastic book. It's the Guide to Gaydon Era Aston Martins, which you can't get in paperback anymore. You can only get it in digital, but someone let me a copy of that and just reading through there and really getting sort of lost in the weeds on all the different revisions from when they were launched to the sports pack to this here, the Glass Key revision 471. And then I test drove a few actually. I test drove an early manual car, which was in budget for me, which obviously I was expected, being a manual guy, that's it, you know, it's in budget, it's a local car, low mileage, one owner, I've got to go for it. But when I test drove that car, it just didn't feel right. Maybe it was coming from the Elise to that, you know, it felt, I don't know, the riding dynamics of it weren't quite sort of sporty enough for me. And then when I test drove this one, the later revision with all of the bits and pieces and the sports pack, it really, I felt connected to it. So yeah, that's why I went for this one. So getting kids in there is no real content out there. You know, I Google searched it. There's a few sort of things in forum posts, but no pictures. There's certainly no videos out there. There wasn't to show if you could get child seats in the back. So it was a bit of a gamble, really. I pulled up on my driveway with it, and then gave it a try there and then. I mean, I could have really been stuffed, but fortunately, I found a solution. Some portable travel child seats that do actually fit in the back, and getting the children in the back is easier than you might think as well. So I do actually drive this car fairly regularly. I mean, I've got a van that I use sort of day to day for work, but any other time I'm driving, I always take this, no matter what the weather is. So I'd say probably 2-3 times at least a week I drive it, and most of the time I take one of my children with me. I mean, I've got 4 now, so I normally always take one of them with me if I'm just popping somewhere. But it's actually pretty usable. You know, I don't know if this is just anecdotal for me, but I found that because I use it so regularly, it's not as unreliable as, you know, the horror stories that you hear. So I've owned this car now for about 18 months. The original plan was to have it for 12 months, get in, get out, and not get my fingers burnt too much. You know, maybe there was only going to be 2 happy days, the day I bought it and the day I sold it. But that hasn't been the case. I mean, some of the best memories I've had in a car that I've owned has been with this car, with my children in it. You know, like no matter where we're going, if we're just popping a soft play or dropping them off at gymnastics or, you know, just anything, it just feels so much more exciting when you're driving a naturally aspirated V12 that you've dreamt of since you were a child. So running costs then, I've done about 4,000 miles in the first year with this car, and miles per gallon around town I get about 13 if I'm driving it spiritedly. If I'm on a long run, 21 is probably the best that I've managed to get in reality. So yeah, 4,000 miles in the first year, so what's that, about £2,000 in fuel? Servicing costs, it's about 600 for a small service, £1,000 if it's a big one. And for servicing, I found a good specialist in Basingstoke actually, Phoenix Aston Martin. The guys up there, they worked on these cars all throughout their life, and then they've got their own place up there now. And so they look after this car. And for example, the sort of things that they do is like the discs needed replacing, and they're Brembo discs. So if I go to Aston Martin, they're going to charge me another 20% just to have an Aston Martin stamp on it. But we put the Brembo discs on there and save me the 20% instead. But with the running costs, I reckon sort of setting aside about £2,000 a year for servicing and things going wrong. I reckon if you can stomach that and mentally put that aside, then it should make the owning experience quite enjoyable. So other dads, I mean, I guess they fall into 2 categories really. Other dads, if they see me pull up at soft play in this, you've got the ones who just don't get cars, they don't understand it at all, and they never will, and you know, doesn't really make any sense to them. But those who like cars, it does make them smile, and it does make them wonder, like, hang on, this doesn't make too much sense. You know, how has he got this when he's got his young children? But I think as well, people assume that they're lots more valuable than they are. But these era of Aston Martin cars now, and the DB9s and Advantages, they are, I think, a real bargain at the moment. Yeah, so my YouTube channel then, it kind of came about because when I was looking to buy this car, I didn't know if I could fit children in the back of it. So the original idea was to look, just as a good thing to put out into the world, I'm going to show that you can actually fit back seats for children in the back of this. And then as I started making the video, I started talking more and more and sort of realising that I've actually got quite a lot of passion for this car. And then I made the first video, the Dad B9 video, which launched the Dad Cars channel. And then the reaction to that was really good. You know, I've got a lot more views on that video already than what I ever imagined. So then other people were reaching out to me and saying, do you want to come and do a Dad Cars review of my exciting car, which has got back seats? And so, yeah, I mean, I've got to the point now where I'm making a video every single week, which is reviewing an exciting dad car like this. And just sort of showing if they can be used with children, really. And if I can just save like one dad out there who kind of is a petrol head at heart, save them from sort of feeling like they've got to set aside their car dreams whilst they've got their children, because I don't think it's something you should repress, really. I don't think you should suppress it. If you are a car enthusiast, just becoming a dad doesn't mean you should then put it off until they're older. Get something now. There's something at any budget, I believe. You know, you don't have to be sort of 35, 40 plus grand for an Aston Martin. You know, there's exciting stuff I've done on my channel. Like I did a Quattroporte recently. I mean, you can pick them up for around £15,000, you know, with a Ferrari V8 engine in it. So no matter what your budget is, even sub 5K, I reckon there's really exciting dad cars out there. So yeah, that's the whole idea of the channel, really, is to inspire other dads out there to follow their passion, to have a car while they can and make the memories with their children. I really did think there was a chance that after a year, you know, just get out of this car and put the whole thing behind me. If it was a real big nightmare, then maybe it would just put me off having cars like this for a while whilst the children are young. But unfortunately, it has been so amazing. But yeah, now with 4 children, I do want to have the ability, I need the ability, because my wife works part-time and I look after them one day a week while she's at work. So I do need the ability to put 3 across the back and then have the 4th next to me. So yeah, I'm basically on a bit of a mission with the channel as well, to explore what possible options there are out there for me. And I believe you used to have a car which has got, I think, potentially the rear seats that I might need. Yeah, so my channel then is Dad Cars, one word. Please do check it out. If you love cars, if you've got children, or you're going to have children one day, or you're a granddad, or anything, please check out my channel. I think you'll like it. If you like JAYEMM, I reckon you might like me. So yeah, please do check it out. I'm on Instagram as well, dadcars88. So if there's anybody out there who's got an exciting dad car, something that's usable that people don't think is, please do reach out to me. Please check out my videos as well. If you comment on my videos, I always reply to them as well, because I'm so small at the moment. So yeah, please check me out. And yeah, look, I hope to see you guys on my channel.
So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please tell me in the comment section down below, and I hope to see Ben on the channel at some point again in the near future. If you've got any suggestions for him about what car he should try as a dad next, please do let us both know. And I hope to see you all for the next one. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe to my channel and Dad Cars too, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.